Wait for it. Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let guest JN Chaney introduce himself to our listeners and viewers at home.
I'm JN Chaney, author of multiple series, Renegade Star, The Variant Saga, Backyard Starship, and more recently, which is what we're going to talk mostly about today, 1-800 Starship. I've co-written with probably about 10 or so authors over the last decade and have produced a few hundred individual works. I also am the CEO and president of Variant Publications, which is the main company that we put our books out through. We also have other publishing partners such as Podium, Audible Studios, places like that. But for the most part, most of our ebooks come through us.
You are halfway to having written a library. You know that, right? Seriously, he has 481 books just in English. I checked his Amazon page. If he has any translations, he's up higher because they're their own entities. With those physical copy books, all 481 of them, you are almost halfway because a library is 1,000 books. By definition, if you have more than 1,000 books, you qualify as a library. You are
It's not 480. I don't know where that number comes from. I think it comes from the translations because they're in English, but we recently did a count and I believe it's at 320. So it's not quite that high.
Well, if they're foreign language translations, but they are print copies, they still count as a separate book.
You could have just let him run with that, Jan.
We do have print copies.
It sounded great.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't want to get unnecessary credit for the wrong number.
Okay. He's modest too, folks.
When he hits that 500th book, he wants to earn it. Damn it.
Yeah. Which probably it'd be a while because I've slowed down.
Fatherhood will do that to you.
Yeah, I for years I worked like 90 hours a week. I didn't take a day off for almost a decade, and now I'm starting because I have a kid now. He's a year and a half almost, and I'm trying to spend much more time with him. So I started taking the weekends off after a decade. So
that used to be the joke that you and John Chaney, or not Chaney, Yanez, you two were part cyborg. Was the joke among other people that know because how much you guys wrote. And that you didn't sleep. That was how you managed.
Yeah. A lot of the fans, they constantly joke about that. Like, when do you sleep? Because I'll make an announcement in the Facebook group. I think we've got like 46,000 people in there now, and every month, usually the first couple of days, I'll make an announcement that's like, hey, here's our upcoming slate for the month. I try to wait until the month of, to like announce the full slate because things are always in flux and changing. And if an author needs more time or the editor needs more time, we like to wait for that, that first week to release the docket. But I just did that, and I even skipped a week. So we're only putting like, I think 3 books out this month, and I still got comments. It's like, oh, I can't keep up. And, when do you guys sleep? And, we have a whole team. We have a team of like 15 people that just work to make books. And, you need a machine to put out this many books and still maintain quality. And sometimes, mistakes get through, but like for the most part, we run a pretty efficient machine, and we can only produce so many books. And even at the level we've reduced that down to so that I can actually rest. We still get those snide comments. I mean, not snide, they're jokesy, like people get it, but I've been getting that for like 8 years now.
There was unless you have a book that gets through your editing process that has insert combat scene here, like that one Bane book, because they accidentally uploaded the wrong draft.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. That was
funny. A couple of years ago. I think Terry Mixon was talking about it.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I don't remember. Was it a John Ringo book? I'll have to ask Terry because he was telling me about it.
That makes you wonder how that got through editing. I think
they just literally uploaded the wrong file.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen stuff like that before from different publishers. We've uploaded the wrong files a couple of times, but it's like the 3rd draft instead of the 4th, So there's like I think we uploaded early on before I had the whole process down, and I had like all the checks in, the quality assurance checks that I realized within a few years of doing this, as I was building things up, like I realized I needed to have multiple checks in the process. Every time someone touched the book, I had to have another check. And so at one point, we had a book. I won't say who the co-writer was because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. But like, it went back to the writer from the editor, and their cat jumped on the keyboard while they were making the corrections, and they didn't realize that the cat inserted like a couple of number signs and a lot of exclamation points. They looked back up, and it was somehow on the next page, and they never saw the error. And then we didn't run another edit after that because she only had a few corrections to make. We went, and then the book came out, and readers immediately found that error, and they're like, "What happened?" So we got called out for that, and I was like, "Okay, we need another check." Like after the author makes the corrections, we have to have another check. So now we have like multiple checks, and we have a very large beta team that will catch stuff. So yeah, I mean, it happens. I've never had that happen though. That's a new one.
Yeah, it's it doesn't surprise me that someone as methodical as you ended up in the Air Force though, because the Army, like bubblegum and duct tape, and we'll call the process good. When the Air Force does that, birds fall out of the sky. So they tend to be more on point with their processes. So, and since I mentioned that, do you think that the time you spent in the Air Force affects the way you tell stories or run your business?
I don't think it changes how I run my business. I mean, my dad and my sister and my mom have all run businesses. So like when I was growing up, I was around that a lot.
Okay.
And so I just kind of absorbed a lot of, I'm from like the deep South, and I was the first person in my extended family to go to college. My dad and his dad didn't, my grandfather who started, the family business, he couldn't even read or write. So, he would just sign a big X when he had to sign something. And my dad, he dropped out in like, I think 7th grade. And so, they all learn through experience and just being around that environment, learning as you go. And I was lucky enough to, work for them and around them and just kind of take all that in every day. And I think that had a much bigger influence on like how to run a business, how to deal with employees, how to stay objective, not get emotional when something happens, to know how to be both a good boss and, someone that you can talk to and not worry about getting reprimanded if there's a mistake made. Like all these are valuable lessons when it comes to running a business and like being a good employer. That said, I think the Air Force helped me when it comes to like the type of thing that I write. So 1-800-STARSHIP, it's about pilots, starship pilots in an alien military force called the Confederation, right? They're Nova Slinger pilots. I mean, I know we'll probably get to all that, but if I didn't have the experience of being in the Air Force, I think I would have found that a little more difficult to learn and get into. But because you're around people that are constantly talking about like Top Gun and, just piloting and how drones work. And I mean, that was our whole job. Like I fixed the computers in the building where all the drone footage came through in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I was able to talk directly with a lot of drone pilots and a lot of analysts and people like that. And so I would get a lot of exposure that way. So I think in a roundabout way, that really did help me to understand piloting and pilots. And I've never, I'm not a pilot myself. I did take lessons when I was younger in a Cessna because my dad has a pilot's license, but I wouldn't say that really affected my writing too much. The military mindset, the way ranks work, the relationships between superiors and subordinates, airmen and sergeants and that sort of thing. The way an E5 talks to an E3 and that dynamic, I think that has a much bigger impact on how you write even alien militaries, right? They're not a 1-for-1, but the relationships can still be mirrored. And I have that in the book too, and in a lot of our books. And that's why like if I'm not an ex-Marine, so if I'm going to write a Space Marine story, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So I knew that early on, and so I went out and I found co-writers with the experience, and that's why like Jonathan Brazy came in, and he was my top choice to work on Sentence to War, which was an idea that I had years ago, and I was like, I think it's a good story. I think people will like it, but I don't think I can write that. I don't have the ground level, in the trenches experience to draw from to be able to accurately portray that without an immense amount of research. And so I went out and I found somebody with that skill set and experience to come in and do that story justice. And Brazy did an amazing job. I mean, for those who don't know, he's a ex-Marine colonel, combat Marine colonel.
It's one of my favorite series that you guys have put out.
Thanks. I appreciate that. That was 15 books. And now it's got a spin-off series too. So it was like, people really, really connected with that. Vets really liked it. And that really mattered to me a lot because, as a veteran, when I see something that doesn't add up on screen or in a book, like, because I have that background, it's easy to point out. And I can only imagine how that is as a Marine reading Space Marine story. And then, I see the comments all the time when people get things wrong, and like calling him a clip, a magazine, little things like that. People always call that out. That's something you learn very early on when writing in the genre, is that people are sticklers for details and you better get them right.
But it's funny because different groups will have their own details they care about, like the sword people or the horse people or the gun people. Like they're all distinct groups and they will all nitpick you. Like if you want to trigger someone, tell them it's a blood groove in the middle of a sword.
Yeah.
The fuller. That'll lead to hours of arguments, and you just sit back and grab the popcorn.
Dude, that'll lead to a duel. What, are you kidding me?
That would be fun to watch. All right, so before we get too far off script, we do have to ask the religion question. So are you ready for this, Jeff?
Yeah.
All right, Star Wars, Star Trek, or Firefly?
Star Trek, for sure.
Is it because it's so hopeful?
No. I mean, it's good, but I just like the way the story is presented.
Okay.
So I would equate like Firefly is really good. I like that universe a lot. It's just too short. It's a space western. It's fun. I like space westerns. I wrote one. That's what Renegade Star is, heavily inspired by Firefly and Outlaw Star. But when it comes to things I like to watch and read, I think Star Trek delivers more of that. So like philosophical debates, really like exploring new worlds. It's humanity doing it, so it feels more relatable. It's us from Earth going out into the universe and just seeing what's out there, as opposed to Star Wars, which is a different galaxy a long, long time ago. The technology is never really explained. It's space fantasy, so there's magic, and there's things like that in Star Trek too when you get into the lore, like deep into the lore. But for the most part, we're talking about sci-fi versus science fantasy at their core. Space wizards versus engineers on a starship, priming up a warp engine with what do they call them? Like dilithium crystals.
Lithium crystals.
Yeah. So that's the difference, and I've always found like Jean-Luc Picard explaining why the Prime Directive matters, or explaining what it means to be human to Data, a lot more interesting than watching a Jedi fight a Sith for the 50th time on screen, or I don't know, the Mandalorian flying. I mean, I like the Mandalorian, but watching the Mandalorian shoot things with his laser gun or his blaster, that's all fun. But I view that as like entertainment, like popcorn entertainment, and then Star Trek is more of something I can like sit back, kind of relax and like take in and really digest.
Did you get a chance to see Andor by any chance? Did you?
No, and I hear it's amazing. I keep hearing it's the best thing to come out of Star Wars, and it's something that I would like. It's on my list, and I really want to watch it. And I like Star Wars a lot. I especially love the original movies, and I enjoyed the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian too. But I haven't seen most of the new stuff.
life will get in the way sometimes if you're viewing.
Well,
pleasure.
yeah, he's busy.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
tend to be more anime anyway, right? Like that tends to be more your jam.
Yeah, I mean, it's hit or miss for me with anime. Like, if I watch anime, it's with my wife because she got into anime.
Okay.
So we've watched like My Hero Academia. I like Trigun a lot. We watched the new reboot of that. There's some sci-fi anime that I like. I'll play a video game here and there. A lot of RPGs, a lot of sci-fi RPGs if I can find them. And I'd say that's influenced a lot of my writing. Cowboy Bebop, Trigun, those old 90s anime, like those 80s and 90s anime, those really influenced a lot of what I like, how I write and what I'm into. But in terms of like today's stuff, I don't think there's a whole lot of like sci-fi that I've picked up and gotten into. I like Don Da Da, but I haven't seen season 2.
Okay, I don't generally watch the anime, but I did watch the first season of Delicious in Dungeon.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah,
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't remember if it was you or some another author I know that recommended it, but it was a good watch. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to watch some of this stuff now and to see the lit RPG and progression fantasy genres pick up on Amazon. I think that anime got to it first. You had like Overlord and Dot Hack back in the 90s, which I watched when I was younger. Shows like that really set the bar or like, kind of opened the door for a lot of these newer stories. And now it's just everywhere. And like, because the interest has picked up like post Ready Player One, like after that movie and book came out, everybody was suddenly into it. I mean, the market flooded on Amazon with lit RPG books. And then followed by progression fantasy a few years later. And I think people have always, written this stuff. They've always been into it. And like I said, anime's been doing it for 25 years now, but it seems like it finally hit, mass appeal and took off.
Yeah. So, all right, we try to be polytheistic here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. So, Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, or Chronicles of Narnia?
Man, I'm not really a fancy guy, but I guess I would pick Chronicles of Narnia. I feel like Game of Thrones is an unfinished work and will probably never finish. I don't really count the TV show because that kind of went off the rails. Or I wouldn't say, maybe it did go off the rails. It felt rushed, felt rushed. When you run out of the source material, you're really just going off an outline, and that's how it felt. So I'd never read or got into Wheel of Time, so I can't speak to that. The first sci-fi or fantasy book that I ever read was Chronicles of Narnia. I went to a little Christian school when I was a kid, and just for like 3 years in middle school. And they had this little library room, had maybe 100 books, 200 books maybe. Most of them were your typical boring contemporary books that a kid doesn't want to read. So I looked around and went through everything because, we had like an hour a day with nothing to do. And I found a book with a picture of a lion on it and a guy holding a sword. I'm like, what is this? And it said The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I picked it up, and I might have been Prince Caspian, but I started reading that whole series. I got into The Magician's Nephew after a while. That became my favorite out of the bunch. And I think I read, if you count The Magician's Nephew, I think I read like 5 of those books, 4 or 5 of them. I didn't read all the way to the end because they didn't have the whole collection. But that really lit my imagination up as a little kid. And I was like, I need to read more stuff like this. More fantasy. And then I didn't even know sci-fi was a thing. When I got older and I got into my like mid to late teens, I discovered Star Trek, Star Wars. I started watching a lot of that. And then I read Ender's Game shortly after that.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was hooked.
That'll get you.
Yeah.
Ender's Game will get you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not only is it military sci-fi, but it's a great young adult book. I mean, that'll draw you in like nothing else.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually read. I was into Halo as a teenager, as I think most people my generation were. If you grew up with it in high school, and we would always, like me and my friend group, we would always get together and play that first game. And the second one came out, I think, my second year of college, and then we were all on that. Went to the midnight release and everything. But that first game, a book came out, I think, maybe a year or two later, called The Follow Reach, which is now, well regarded, well known among the fandom. And I picked it up because it was a prequel to the book, and I really liked the story of the game and the universe and everything. And I was like, oh, I want to know more. I want to know as much as possible about it. So I was digging, for as many tidbits as I could get. And this book came out. I found out about it. My friend told me you should read this book. So I picked it up and I read it, and I loved it. And then I had all my friends read it, and they all loved it. And that was the first military sci-fi book I read. And then another friend was like, oh, if you like that, you should read Ender's Game. I'm like, I've never heard of that. What is that? And he's like, well, that's a lot of the ideas from this, from Halo came from the Ender series. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went and I picked the book up and I read it. Man, I couldn't put it down. It was so much better. First off, no offense to the writer of Follow Reach. I mean, that was a good book too, but so much better. And as a teenager reading it, I could relate much more to Ender, I think, than I could, Master Chief. And that was the story where I was like, man, I want to do this. I want to write and entertain people, because I actually personally connected with it. And I think that personal connection to a character, that's what people are really looking for. Whereas Master Chief, he did a good job in the book making him somewhat relatable. But Ender is we get a much better picture, a much deeper picture of that character than we do of Master Chief in the book. So, when I picked up Ender's Game, I couldn't put it down. I read the sequel a few years later in college and loved those too. So I know a lot of people don't like them, but.
Okay. So I will say that you mentioned Jonathan Brazee wrote the series with you, which I haven't read that one yet, so I'll have to check it out. I did enjoy Brazee's Werewolf Marines series that he did, which was really, really good. So, I mean, he's got skill with writing. I've read a lot of his short content because I read a lot of anthologies. But my favorite series you've put out so far, I mean, I enjoyed Renegade Star because that's obviously the first one of yours I found. And it's so much bubblegum pop, fun summer read that doesn't take itself too seriously, which when it came out, the world needed that, I think. But lately I've enjoyed your Last Hunter series. Any plans on taking that one to the next level and getting more books or another spinoff?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So Terry Mixon and we talk about that a lot, and we're working on The Forgotten Ship right now. So right. I think that'll probably come to a close at maybe 6 to 9 books, depending on if he wants to continue it after 6. But we've already been talking about extending The Last Hunter again, doing another arc in that, because people keep asking for it. So we have some ideas. We'll see. I think if we do it, it'll be into next year.
Yeah, the trope of the old museum ship being brought back out of mothball just resonates with people. It's the reason, even though there were plenty of plot holes with the movie Battleship, everyone loved it because they liked seeing that old, Ohio class battleship being brought back online. And
that movie was so much fun. Oh my god!
Oh, absolutely.
I haven't seen it. I'll have to watch that one. We've been watching a lot of old movies
to break into a 7-Eleven to steal a burrito for a hot chick, right? I mean, come on.
It's great. Yeah, You'll love it because it's got that military flair, and I mean, it's just really ridiculous in a lot of ways.
I think that came out of the height of Transformers, right? So it's got that sort of Michael Bay feel to it.
It does, yeah.
That oversaturated, lens flare ridden explosion mess. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll check that out.
It has that, that the concept of bringing the old mothballed ship back. It's why Battlestar Galactica resonated with people. there's something, about making what's old new again.
Yeah.
I think it hits the as people get older, they start to feel they're not as valuable to society. And stories like that remind you that just because you're out of the fight now doesn't mean you have to stay that way.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I actually, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say my old high school English teacher used to say just because there's snow on the roof doesn't mean there's not a fire in the furnace still. I think that kind of mentality applies as why that kind of lost starship that we just found it, or the mothball to battlefield ready again. Like that's why those stories hit, I think.
I've never heard that expression, but that's a good one. Yeah.
He was a good old boy from Southern Virginia. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we well, I should say I'm working on a book. It's done now. It's just been sent off to Podium. They're going to publish the paperback, but it's with Nicholas Sansbury Smith.
Oh, he's a good writer.
He's a very, very good writer. So he and I are working on this 4-book series. It's called Old Guns, and it's about these two it's like grumpy old men, but Space Marines. So they're called back out of retirement to go fight this alien threat, and I think we got a good story with it. So that's all I'll say about it now, because I it's not coming out till early next year, but it's been turned in. It's off to the printer, I think, and I think it's going to bookstores. This one.
Okay. Well, before we get too far afield, because I want to get as quickly as possible onto this book because I'm intrigued, but we do have to honor the patrons who pay for the upkeep of this podcast. So one of the crying shames of adulthood is we do stop asking each other the important questions. So we do aim to bring that back here. I'm going to ask you, sir, what is your favorite dinosaur?
My favorite dinosaur? Triceratops.
You're of the generation where that was on all the cartoons, so yeah, it's not an uncommon answer, but it's a good one.
Yeah, I grew up with Land Before Time.
Yep,
I was about to ask.
Yeah, you had little Sarah, the Triceratops, and I pointed that out to my friend the other day. We were talking about dinosaurs. Apparently, there's this running joke among, I guess, moms. My wife told me about it, and her other mom friend told her about it, and if you guys heard that joke about men thinking about ancient Rome, like how often do men think about Rome? Yeah, or the Roman Empire. Right. It's kind of like that. So she was like, "How many dinosaurs can you name?" And I said, "I don't know," and I listed them all off, and it was like 7 or something, just off the top of my head. And she's like, "Really? That many?" And I said, "Yeah, how many can you name?" She's like, "I don't know, not that many, 2 or 3." She's like, "When did you learn dinosaurs?" I'm like, "I don't know."
Like, doesn't every little boy want to be a paleontologist at some point just so you can play with dinosaurs?
Well, I absolutely wanted to be an archaeologist, but
Indiana Jones?
Yeah, I wanted to be Indiana Jones. And to the point where when I got to college, I actually considered anthropology and archaeology as a major before switching to writing, because you're not going to make a living doing that, most likely. And you have to rely on, So I was like, if I'm going to do something that I'm passionate about, that's not going to make a ton of money, I'll just be a writer, I'll just do that. So,
okay.
Yeah. And that worked out, but
how did you decide you wanted to be a writer? I mean, there are a lot of people that love to read books. Your business is afloat because there are lots of us out there that read. What made you decide to cross the line from reading the content to writing it yourself?
Well, I used to write fan fiction on this old web forum. And the only reason I did that was because a friend of mine brought home a story that was only like half a page long, and it was about the end of the world, right? He's like, look what I wrote in class. And I think he used to write these all the time. But this was the only one that, like, the first time that I actually sat down and read it and was like, oh, you can do that? You can just make a story up? This is so cool. And I was just like, my little, I don't know, I think it was in like 8th grade or something, 9th grade. My little teenage brain just like never figured that out for some reason. And so I'm like, I'm going to go home and do this. And so I went home that night and I got my mom's yellow legal pad and I just wrote a sci-fi story.
Nice.
and it was 25 pages long by the time I finished. It took me a couple nights, and I don't think I actually ended, but I got like through the bulk of the story I wanted to go through. And it was about discovering a starship, in our backyard with my friends.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Where have I heard that before?
Yeah. So that's not where the idea came from for that series, but that just coincidentally is like the first. Yeah. The idea for Backyard came from Harvest Moon, an old video game.
Okay.
Yeah. Where you inherit a farm from your grandfather. And
Right.
I think at the time I was into Stardew Valley. I was playing that. And that's heavily based on
Stardew Valley, seriously?
Heavily inspired by Harvest Moon. I think it was like, I want to say it was like 2019 or something.
So
and,
did you ever do fanfic on Wattpad?
No. I think Wattpad was after my time. It was. I used to write fan fiction about Zelda.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah. So my little story was called The Fourth Triforce Piece. And I had no plan or outline, and it was really badly written. But it was the first time I was writing and showing it to people. And so every week I would go on there and I would type a little chapter. Cool. And I got great feedback from everybody, and I learned as I went and learned all the writing rules as best that people can tell me on a web forum. And then I continued to do that for years until I got to college. I was majoring in I think it was undeclared at first, and then I switched to biblical studies, and I switched to criminology, and then I finally switched. I considered anthropology and archaeology, then I finally made the switch to writing.
Oddly enough, all of those will serve you well as an author. That's yeah.
And minored in humanities, which is the subject I was most interested in, was humanities and mythology and things like that. But there's not really a practical use for that aside from teaching. So I just minored in it, and then I majored in writing because I'm like, well, I'll be a writer, and then I can use all of this stuff in my writing, which I have from time to time.
Sure.
But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And then I started writing my own stories on these forums. At one point, I became the literary moderator of the moderator for the literary forum on there, the sub forum. Then I became an admin for the site, and then I went off to college. And at that point, I was writing my own stuff and sharing it with these the remaining people on the website. And after a while, it came time to declare a major, and I was torn between, should I go for criminology or something else like business or whatever, or should I do the thing I really care about? And I went on the web forum and I asked, and and they were all like, just do writing. They were very encouraging of it. And so that's like the main reason I pulled that trigger. It's because I had people encouraging me to pursue the thing I was most passionate about.
Nice. So as we ask our last religion question, this is the one near and dear to my cold, dead heart, but we try to be civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. We are no longer knuckle-dragging troglodytes. So coffee or tea, and how do you take it?
Tea, Earl Grey, probably influenced by Star Trek. Yeah. So I like Earl Grey tea with a little bit of honey in it, and that's pretty much it.
Do you put your pinky up when you drink it?
No. I just don't like coffee because of the taste. I don't like the bitter taste. It's too strong, and I can't handle that strong caffeine too. So, tea's like just right.
Nothing wrong with that.
You're ex-military. You can't handle heavy doses of caffeine? Hold on.
No, man. When I was in the military, I barely slept, and I drank no caffeine at all because of that.
Lord.
I could
naturally
I had bad
wired.
insomnia. Yeah, naturally wired at night.
Gotcha.
Like now, I go to bed at like 2-3 in the morning just because that's my cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So do you, like, when you drink your tea, is that something you developed later in life, or were you drinking the tea when you were in the Air Force?
No, I drank tea in college, and then when I got to the Air Force, because I had to wake up at 6 in the morning, I stopped drinking caffeine altogether.
Okay.
And I still had bad insomnia. So I got out of the military, and then I started back on tea again. I mean, I'm not like a religious tea drinker. I don't drink a lot of tea, but when I do, that's usually what it is.
Okay, that's fair. All right. Well, I want to talk about the book that brought us here. So we're going to pause for a moment and we're going to shamelessly shill for the Soulless Ginger who sponsored this episode. You might recognize this one, JN Chaney.
Van, I know this is hard for you to accept or even believe, but you're not imagining this. You're not going crazy. Your grandfather believed right down to the core of his being in protecting those who couldn't protect themselves.
You expect me to believe that my grandfather was a star-faring soldier?
I can prove it to you.
And how are you going to do that?
By taking you for a flight. Whenever you're ready, Van.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. That's how you know you made it.
So much.
Yeah, that trailer. So they really need to make that like as an anime or whatever, because that was awesome.
Yeah, maybe one day.
So if Netflix is listening, I'm just saying that might be your next big hit. Do you consider that when you do your writing, like what you would want to see as an anime?
No, not really. I don't really assume. I always write this stuff assuming I'll never get that kind of deal. And
Yeah.
I focus just on a book. I want to have a fun book. And who knows? I mean, maybe one day the right person will read the right book and they'll be like, this will make a great movie. Let's option it. Who knows? Things like that happen all the time. I mean, that's how most of these projects get greenlit in the first place, is because just somebody happened upon a book and they liked it, or they heard a pitch from a friend or a colleague, and it just goes from there. But I don't know. I don't really. I mean, if Orson Scott Card had gone into Ender's Game thinking that, we wouldn't have got Ender's Game. So for decades, they considered that an unfilmable, book.
I think I read somewhere it took like 30 years for that to become a movie.
It took a long time. Yeah,
it's crazy.
I think a lot of sci-fi, because of the imagination of future tech, budgets are the limiting factor. That's why I was thinking something like anime would work, because you're not limited at that point by the sets.
Look up how much it costs per second of animation.
Wait, okay.
It's staggering.
It's pricey, dude.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Learn something new every day. All right.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of these companies are going to start using AI to generate their animation and all that. That seems to be where things are probably going to go, because they want to save costs. But in terms of traditional animation, the way things, like the stuff that we like, that I would want to watch, that's very expensive. And depending on the studio too, if you get a reputable studio like Bones or one of those other ones that has the background and they're putting a lot of time and energy into it, it's going to cost even more, like 10, 20 times.
Okay, I did not know that. All right, so before we get started talking about the 1-800 Starship, and I'm going to throw that cover up there because it's just glorious. But for the parents listening at home, I know you're kind of all over the place, but generally family friendly. But could you just kind of tell people what you would think the rating of this book would be if people are looking for, the kids in their life that are readers?
Yeah, I mean, I would say teen. The guy is the main character, Mark. He's around 19. He's saving money for college, working at his uncle's diner. So I wrote, when I write a character that age, I assume that people that see the book will assume that because he's that age, it's probably okay for a younger demographic. And so I don't write less violence and I don't write with a filter, but I do have the characters, not use the F word.
Okay.
Or, more risque language, I guess. I don't know. But it's something that I think that most people over the age of 13 could read, and a parent probably wouldn't get upset about it. I mean, I'm sure some parents would. It's got violence, so I'm sure
you're always going to have those few. I mean, the violence especially can be triggering. Sorry for the use of that word, but it can be for some parents. They're trying to shield their kids from it. But I think that the fact that you've got a young man going off on an adventure is the coolest part of it for me. But I was reading the blurb earlier, and it's like I'm picking up some serious Last Starfighter vibes from this. Was that part of your inspiration?
Absolutely, man. I have multiple references to The Last Starfighter in here for eagle-eyed fans. So
nice.
If you read it and you're familiar with the movie, you will recognize specific things.
Yeah. I wanted to show this to you because in the blurb you mentioned Galaga.
Oh yeah.
This actually has the graphics from the arcade game on this little tiny screen.
Yeah, that's cool.
I was like, yeah, this is so cool because I know you're a pinball fan too. So.
Oh yeah, big pinball fan. That's in the book. And then
I was wondering.
Yeah, there's a lot of old arcade games mentioned. Like I'm a huge arcade enthusiast. We have some great ones here in Vegas. We're moving to Orlando in January, and there's one there called Monster Arcade. I can't wait to go to. I've been there before. It's amazing. But any kind of retro 80s, 90s arcade, I'm all about it. And
I spent many hours as a young man walking the 2 miles to Flipper McCoy's to play the pinball and the skeet ball and whatever video game they had on. A lot of Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of that in this book, and it serves a purpose. I'm not just throwing this in to throw it in. It's all like narratively important and thematically important.
Yeah, I wondered about that, especially when you mentioned Ender's Game earlier, and then there's the Last Starfighter vibe, and there's kind of a Tron vibe with his uncle owning an arcade. So there's a whole lot of like 80s influences that I picked up just on the blurb, and I cannot wait to get my hands on this. This is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, man, I hope you like it. I hope a lot of people like it. We've gotten good feedback from the beta readers so far, and they all seem to enjoy it. But it is really built for that person who, whether they're young like Mark here or older like us, or even my dad's age. He's 68 years old and he grew up on arcades and he loves pinball. And I think if you're a fan of that, that nostalgia, including movies and stuff, and we talk about movies in the book too. Mm-hmm. If you're a fan of any of that, I think this is probably for you. Sort of like revisiting that era through a sci-fi lens, and also a little bit of a modern lens too, because he's from 2025, and he's like kind of living in the past in that way.
So that's nice. That's a little look back through the years from a modern perspective, looking back on that time frame. So when you bring him into the larger universe, tell us a little bit about that. How did you envision bringing him into this larger world?
Well, you can see he's holding a comic book,
right?
And that's the Last Starfighter influence there. But basically, instead of a video game, he's working part-time at his uncle's arcade / burger, restaurant diner, and his uncle collects old 80s, stuff, and including like he has an old rotary phone from back then. It's like a modern antique. He's got a lot of old toys, and he's fixed up these old arcade games himself. And it's just like he made his money in the .com bubble, and now he's living the dream of his childhood. Just kind of like relishing all this nostalgia, not in an effort to make money, but just sort of like enjoying it. And so Mark's there, and he grew up with his uncle, and his dad was into this stuff too. His dad's passed away now. And so he latched onto his uncle, and he's been influenced heavily by all of that. That's why he's into this stuff. So one day he's in the back office, and he discovers this old comic book that he's never heard of called Fantastic Tales of Space and Time. And he picks it up, and it's got that old retro 80s style art, hand painted, that Wayland style art that you used to see all the time.
Right.
And he starts reading the story, and it's about these Nova Slinger pilots. And it's only about 12 pages of a little story. But then after that, there's all of this like expanded material that's like an encyclopedia on the universe. That's almost as long as the story itself. And he finds that very odd, but he reads it all and he's like, man, this is also interesting. And he gets to the end, and there's a couple of ads. So you have like a Sea Monkeys ad, and you have another ad. It's like, call now to become, And
the old comic book ad pages, man. There's the X-ray specs and
get your X-ray specs. Specs. So he sees one in there, and it's like, call now to become a Nova Slinger pilot, which is what the guys in the comic are. They're Nova Slinger pilots. So he's like, well, that's interesting. And he's like, well, this book was made in the 80s. There's no way that phone number works now. He picks up the phone and he calls it, just to see. And to his surprise, the number does work. It actually works. And so the story kind of goes from there. He ends up getting recruited and going off into space. And I'm not going to spoil the details of that, but he gets out there and he discovers that aliens are actually familiar with Earth and Earth culture, specifically the 80s. There's like this obsession with 80s pop culture from Earth. And it just sort of stopped, at like 1989, like all of the cultural influence from Earth, which at one point was like sort of the Mecca, cultural beacon of the galaxy, unbeknownst to us, right, as humans. All our TV shows were popular out there. All of our the books and the comics and the video games, all that stuff had found its way out.
The burning question becomes: is there a David Hasselhoff fan club in the stars?
No, but that's a good idea for a sequel. So I mean, he finds all this very odd, right? And he's like, why did it stop at the end of the 80s? There's so many other things that came after that. And that's all part of the mystery, right? So he has to figure that out and find out what happened to cause the galaxy to sort of close its door to Earth culturally.
Ooh.
And he's the first human. He's the first human to come into all this in 4 decades.
So he's the first human recruit?
In 4 decades. There was
4 decades.
Yeah,
okay.
There were other humans, back in the day. So
okay.
That's all part of the lore and the history and the mystery that he has to uncover.
Nice. I'm looking forward to this. So when you design your aliens for this, did you go for, like, I know you're a Star Trek fan, so did you go for the more Star Trek feel where it's basically, because the ones on the cover are really unique and really cool looking. And so I'm wondering if these are representative of species that are in the book, or did you go for the more, it's just a human with a different kind of facial apparatus?
No,
headgear?
They're all pretty different. They're all pretty different. I have one species who is basically a hive mind. It's a 100 person hive mind. At any given time, there are 100 individual, bodies, but they all share one consciousness, and they can talk. They can think the same thoughts and can communicate across any distance in space instantly, which makes them, really good at the telephone game. They can go sit in one system, relay information to their allies in another through these different bodies. But there can only be 100 of them at a time. And so two of them, D and V, are 2 of the characters in the book. And I should say they're one character because they're the same consciousness. The entire species is one individual. So they have like mushroom, almost like a mushroom fungal head with no eyes and no nose and no mouth. So I tried to get as alien and interesting while still being like not too freaky with the different aliens. Like there's one that's sort of a mousy kind of deer species and things like that. Yeah, I mean, they're all. I don't want to get too into the weeds on it, but I think there's like just in book 1, I've got 6 or 7 main species, and then more get introduced in the second book, which I'm writing right now.
So where did the origin story of the concept of the, obviously you're a fan of The Last Starfighter. Is that literally like, hey, I wonder if I could do The Last Starfighter in a new age, or was there another genesis for the idea that became this universe?
I think originally I came up, this was on my desk for years.
Okay.
For a couple of years. It took me a while to write that book. And that was because I was working so much on all these co-writes. I mean, I was spending like 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, just editing or on the phone brainstorming or outlining or whatever. I don't attend cons except for the one here in Vegas, as I try to just do my work. So I was sort of like chipping away at this thing for a long time. And then finally, I slowed my releases down to a point where I think now we were putting out 8 a month at one point. And I start working on these releases a year out, sometimes longer, to get them to where they need to be, working with the author that, it takes a while. And we like to build up a few at a time before we start releasing a series. So, the co-author and I are overwhelmed trying to keep up. It gives us a little bit more wiggle room ahead of time. But I reduced the number of books I was putting out because I wanted to write more like this, solo work. And now I've reduced my output by half so that I can do more of this. And once I did that, I had a lot more time in the day that I could dedicate to just writing. So that's why it took so long. It took about 2 years.
Oh, man, that's an eternity for you. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, long time. But, sorry, to answer your question, JR, the idea itself, I believe the idea came because at the time I was reading a comic book. And I wasn't even watching The Last Starfighter. I was just reading a comic book. And I think I saw an ad in there. And the ad, it wasn't like call 1-800, comic book or whatever. It was just an ad that stuck out to me. And then I started to think like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if there was an ad in here to like go buy a starship or like go sign up for a starship or whatever, like that kind of got my mind going with it. And then after a while I started to, I gestated on it because I was too busy to start actually writing the treatment. And then after a while, I talked to my friend Rob about my books a lot. Like he's like my brainstorming partner. And I think we got on the phone one day for like 3.5 hours and we just kind of talked out the book.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it came from. And then the title my wife came up with.
Good job for her then.
Yeah. She also came up with Big Trouble Little Earth, which recently came out.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that one too. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. That's on my list.
So
it's got a great cover.
What would you say the starfighters in this one look like if you're going to describe them to the audience?
Nothing like the movie. They're called Nova or Novae, N-O-V-A-E for plural, N-O-V-A singular. And the pilots are called Slingers, but they're more slender, like more ovular. And
they're not made by Chevy.
Not that I'm aware of.
Right. Okay.
No, and they pop out like they're powered by a small cube called a tachyon field generator and nicknamed a Rubik's cube. So,
of course,
because it looks like a Rubik's cube.
And it's 80s obsessed alien, so why not?
Right. Well, that was originally nicknamed by the human pilots in the 80s. So there's a lot of references like that in there. The compartment that the pilot uses to get into the ship is called a cassette because of the way it pops in and out of the ship. So there's a lot of that, you know.
Is there any rewinding with a pencil at any point?
No, they're not that small.
Okay.
But no, I think, you know, I tried to make this fun. You know, I tried to make it something that I would want to read as a fan of all this stuff. Something that is just fun. It's not like, I mean, it's serious at times, like any good story. It has drama. It has, you know, moments of reflection and all that. But at the same, and there is a sort of, there are character themes and arcs in this, and it's not just fluff or bubblegum fiction. I did try to put some meaning into it, but at its core, my goal was fun. You know,
is it too spoilery to ask, what is Mark's main arc? What does he learn?
Well, I don't want to get too much into that, but I will say it ties directly into the 80s stuff.
Okay.
And I think that,
fair enough.
Yeah, I guess I would say, because I guess not too big of a spoiler, but if you live in the past, you'll never embrace the future.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of the message of the book.
You know, cool. You're killing my inner historian nerd, right? Like when you say stuff like that.
Oh, I love history. Yeah.
So with this one, do you foresee like expanding it to, you know, go back in time? Because obviously you're taking it from this character's POV forward. Do you have in your head, if this takes off, you know, going back to those pilots from the 80s, or would you want to take the story after this series ends to the future?
I'm writing a short story right now that is about those pilots, and it's a prequel, obviously, and it'll be given away for free, you know, before the book comes out, so to the hardcore fans. But then I will also package it in with book 2 when that comes out.
So one of the things you do, if people go out to your website, he does when he produces the audio in-house, you'll generally get like an origin story novella that's relatively cheap in audio or you can get the ebook on his website. So we link the website in the show notes. You should check it out. Just like Bane has their free library, he has a lot of either deals or like the prequel kind of stuff you generally get in a box set available for backstory, just side stories that are a lot of fun. You've done that. I noticed you started doing that when I was reading the stuff you wrote with Scott Moon. And then I've just, you know, it's all there. So it's worth checking out the website, not just going to the book sales on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or wherever.
Yeah, I would say if you want that stuff, if you want the short stories for free as those are released, I would just sign up for the newsletter or join the Facebook group. Those are the two best ways, because I will post the story in the group and I'll pin it to the top and you can just get it for free. That's the easiest way.
So a lot of times I've noticed your attention to detail on the covers. A lot of authors will tell you the cover is just a placeholder for the idea, for the concept, to get the vibe of the book. You tend to take it where the details on the cover are important. So you've got this patch on the main character's leather jacket, which, you know, you can't be a pilot without a leather jacket. So I'm totally cool with it. But is there any significance to the alien eating the hot dog?
Yeah, actually, that's a members only jacket from the 80s, and and that was his dad's jacket. And
so is it leather or polyester then?
Polyester.
No, it's a polyester cotton blend.
So the patch, the alien patch, that's the artist's rendering of it. In the book, it's a little bit different, but that's mostly right. It is an alien eating a hot dog. I think in the book he's wearing like, you know, neon pink glasses or something. So I might have to update the cover at some point to reflect that. But the patch is still there. The patch is the band emblem from his dad's band.
Okay.
And his dad
nice.
His dad was killed overseas in a war, and when he was when he was pretty young. And so this is sort of like the thing. This is the jacket he wears to remember his dad.
Okay, that is still cool. There's something about pilots and their special jackets that just go together, so it works for me. Are there any secondary characters that you particularly were fond of when you were telling this? And some of the aliens that.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's hard not to. You know, you write a book, you fall in love with your characters every single time. If you like your book, I've met authors who hate their books, so maybe not everybody. But yeah, I mean, the bird on the left that you see, that's Mia. She's very intelligent but a little shy. And the character on the right is Lance. He's sort of the rival for Mark. I really like Lance. I think he's a fun, kind of stoic character to write. I like the character Teak. I like Finn. Teak is like the mousy character. She's a little mousy. She wears Ray-Bans because she has sensitive eyes. In the
do any of these
light.
Aliens wear Van Halen concert tees?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. She wears them for practical reasons because her eyes are sensitive to light. But I like Teak. I think she's a fun character. It's very uncommon for her species to fight, and so she's an unusual person in that species to like sign up to actually be a live combatant, a pilot. The fact that she was able to make it through slinger training is even more impressive. So, then I have Finn and Aaron, who are best friends, and they're both from this mostly water world with some land on it. They're a dual species that branched off at some point. One of them lives in the water. One of them lives on the small alcove sort of island landmass. And they can both swim very well. One can obviously swim better than other, and they can both, they both went through training together and were recruited together. One can talk like a regular person, but the other one uses an inflatable bag on his neck, kind of like a frog. And when it deflates, that's the voice.
Oh,
and he
gross.
changes skin color based on his mood.
Oh.
He's a mood ring. Oh god.
Yeah.
How 80s is that?
So his name's Finn, and I think I like him a lot. He's sort of like goofy, and
that sounds fun.
Yeah. So anyway,
you've got a book called 1-800-Starship, and if that's back in the day when long distance call was expensive, 1-800 and 900 numbers were a way to do that for some corporations. Is the 1-800-Starship number active? Can we call it to get like the book trailer read to us?
No. I wish, man. I tried to get that number. Can't reach anybody that has it. We've tried multiple times. I actually took it out of the book. It was in the book as 1-800-Starship. Now it's just the title because I like the title so much. But yeah, don't call the number. Last I checked, it just went to nothing.
That's a nice 80s thing, though, really, because how many of us tried to dial 8675309 at some point?
Yeah.
And, desperate to talk to a girl named Jenny. So,
what was the McGruff? Oh, no, that wasn't a phone number, was it? No, that was an address. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Rockville, Maryland. Take a bite out of crime. That was McGruff.
Yeah. No. So, yeah, don't call the number. No one will answer. If they do, it's not me.
Or someone might answer the call and you could find yourself talking to a scammer.
Yeah, it could be. I think at one point it was like a medical company because that's what I found when I looked, but it was out of business by that point. Yeah. Apparently you cannot buy numbers. You can only like request them if they're available. And I think somebody has that one right now. So
that was probably like the first generation of cyber squatters. Like you have people that cyber squat on domain names now. And I would imagine that back in the day, squatting on a phone number like that was probably a big deal.
Well, I even put contextually in the book, if I remember right, I put in there that like he calls the number again afterwards and it just goes to something else. So he, it was like a weird, he doesn't really understand it. So anyway, you'll see when you read it, but I try to account for that too.
So that's one of the crying shames of the Last Starfighter is that game doesn't exist. So we can fight the Armada. That's why I was thinking, well, for this one, if it's the 1-800 number in a comic book, like it'd be so cool if at some point it takes off enough that you can do that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm already having talks about that. And if the book does well, And that's the key here. If it does well, I can do it. So.
Oh, wait, make the video game?
No. Make the comic book.
I was getting excited for a second.
Yeah, if the book sells well, then I'll be able to make a comic book. I'll have
nice.
Yeah, I'll have someone, a partner that wants to do it.
Or even a web comic. That would be good. That's starting to be a thing.
Yeah. The other cool thing that Chaney does is if you check out his website, some of the figures get their own little merch because you've got like the Foxy Stardust bobbleheads you did from the Renegade Star. So there's also a chance for like merch. You can like rep your stuff, t-shirts, that kind of mouse pads, that kind of thing.
Oh,
yeah, I should have
eating
brought
hot dog patches.
Yeah, no, I should have brought it. I actually have a sticker for the patch and already done and printed. And then I have a purple sandwich, which is in the book on a sticker. and I'm hoping to do more stuff like that in the future. So we just did a Kickstarter for Backyard Starships hardcover special edition.
Nice.
And that raised over $50K. So that was a success. And as part of that, we were able to, do a bunch of add-ons for free. If you buy the book, you get a bunch of stuff for free. If we hit certain goals, stretch goals. And a lot of that was art, but it was also like challenge coins, bumper stickers, patches, things like that. So we have a lot of that in there. And I'm hoping to do that at some point for this.
I know one author in particular put out a Kickstarter, and I bought into it because I was a fan. And one of the freebies that they gave away was a 3D printing of the starship featured in the series.
Oh, nice.
Which I thought was really cool. If you could do that with the Novas, that would be nice.
Oh yeah, I mean, if this thing takes off, my plan is to get fans as much stuff as they want. I mean, if they express an interest in having a Nova on the desk, like I'll print it, and even if I make nothing on it, which is usually my goal with those special projects.
One of the cool things you can do nowadays with the 3D printing, though, is if you have the STL file, you can sell that, and then people can print it themselves, and it lowers some of the barrier to entry.
Right.
Although you need someone with an actual 3D printer to do their own. But I like some of those little model starships. Those are the kind of things you put on your desk just to look cool.
Absolutely, yeah. And if I can find a good 3D modeler who can design something that I'm happy with, I'd love to do that. Like I said, I don't do that stuff until the book, like people show me they like the book, they want the book. If they show that, like they did with Backyard, and it takes off, then I'm like, okay, there's clearly a want here for this story. I give it some time for more audience to build up, and then I start looking at that stuff. But it's so rare to have a book take off like that and kind of stick in the zeitgeist like Backyard did. But it does happen every once in a while. I'm hoping it'll happen here because, I mean, it's the first book I've written in years on my own. So I put a lot of time and effort into it, and I'm really passionate about the story and the universe. But you just never know until it comes out and people tell you if they like it.
Now, is this obviously you do everything in audio as well? Is this going to be a solo narrator, or did you go for the dual narration that's popular at the moment?
No, solo. This was done with Podium Audio. Right. We have Tom Taylorson on it. We wanted a different voice from Backyard, although I love Jeffrey Kafer. He's amazing. But
Jeff's great.
Yeah, but Tom, he's really captured the vibe of the story. And they sent it to me already, and I've listened to like half the book just in a few days, and I'm really enjoying it. So hopefully other people feel the same way. I first found Tom Taylorson because of Mass Effect.
Okay.
I thought that name sounded familiar.
Yeah, he was the lead voice actor on Andromeda, which not the best in the series. No. But he did a good job on the voice.
Okay. Is there anything, because I know time's an essence when you've got young kids, but is there anything about this?
Oh, he went to bed.
He's okay. Perfect. Yeah. Is there anything about the series we didn't cover that you think like people really need to know?
I would say, I'm not looking to do 25 books of this. I'm looking to do I have one solid story mapped out for 6 books. if the series takes off, I could do more. Like, it's that kind of universe. But right now I'm really hyper focused on telling this specific story. And yeah, I mean, I hope it resonates with people. My main goal when I work on these books is to give people an escape. And this book in particular, I crafted with a lot of that in mind, while trying to make it emotionally resonant. So hopefully that works. I hope people read it, and I hope they tell me if I messed up and completely missed the mark, or if they get as much out of it as I did. So
I will say one of the things that I like that you do when it comes to your publishing company, even books that aren't selling, you give them that last book that wraps the plot up. So for the people that liked it, they're not left with just no ending, which I really appreciate. Not every publishing house does that giving each series its own kind of final arc, even if it's not as long as you might have wanted it to be, which is the cool part. So, at least if you're reading a Variant Publications novel, the series won't just stop in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, we still get people that come in to like books that I put out 8 years ago. I got people still picking up the Amber Project, and that came out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This year is the 10-year anniversary of that book. It came out April 14th, I think it was, because it's my birthday, April 14th, 2015. So, if people are still picking that book up 10 years later, and I'm still getting emails about it, and I still get emails about, the other spinoffs and different things that I did for Renegade Star like 6 years ago, I assume even the short stuff, like the 3 or 4 book series, I get emails like, are you going to continue these books? Is there going to be more of this? And I'm like, no, we ended that. It didn't sell that well. But we tried our best to provide an ending. And they're okay with it because they're like, yeah, it feels like that was a good, it was good enough of an ending.
And I don't mind an ending that is a new beginning, where like you did with the Last Hunter series, like it definitely felt like that arc ended, but there was obviously more to the universe. I think that's a good way to do it. That kind of meets both. If it does well enough to come back to you, you've got hooks. But there are certain notable authors who have just left series. You'll never know how it ends because they're not going to write the books.
Yeah, I mean that always bothers me, because when I was growing up and I was reading books, Orson Scott Card did it a few times where you would put a book out and it wouldn't sell that well, or it'd sell just okay, but the publisher at the time just wasn't interested in the next one. I try not to blame the author, because I know books written in the 80s and 90s, like it's out of their control a lot of times.
Absolutely.
So the publisher just doesn't want to continue it, and that's fine. You just have to take each book as its own thing. But today, with the state of publishing now, especially with what like I'm doing, I could write 50 of these, and they could sell 2 copies a piece, and it wouldn't matter, because if I want to write 50 of them, I can do that. I don't want to write 50 of these books, but that you have that ability. And I think that can lead to some very long series, but it also gives you the exact amount of space to write a complete story that you have the author has, in mind for the book, or for the story. And there's something special about that. So it's just, things are different now, and we have the flexibility to make these books as long or as short as we want, or series, I should say. Same with the universe, right? Like if like Backyard came out, and that series is 28 books long right now, and our goal is 40. Like we have the whole series like mapped out going forward to get to 40 books. We have all the arcs mapped out, and we also have 2 prequel series that are either in production or have come out, and then we have 3 spinoffs in the future mapped out already. Like the outlines exist and they're set up going forward. That gives us the flexibility now, knowing we're going to do that in a year or 2 or whenever, that we can sprinkle in little Easter eggs throughout the main series all the way, like a year ago, for something that might not come out for another year or 2. And that's the kind of foresight that you can have in an industry like this, where you're putting the books out yourself, that you just couldn't do back in the 80s and 90s, because you had to be greenlit by the publisher.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, some people did, but like it's pretty rare.
Any truth to the rumor that Fun Boy is going to get his own series?
No, yeah, absolutely. Well, not his own series. He's going to get a spin-off book, Icky and Fun Boy.
Nice.
Yeah, it's already written. It's been edited. It's been sent off to Podium already. We just have to wait because they have to narrate it. We're going to release it at the same time as the narration. So that book's already done. It's called Icky and Fun Boy and the Galaxy's Biggest...
Icky and Fun Boy are my two favorite side characters from Backyard. I love them so much. I really
that's why they got a spinoff. People wanted an odd couple story with those two.
That's going to be fantastic. I can't wait for that.
So that one is called Icky and Fun Boy and the Galaxy's Biggest Buffet. So clearly a comedic story.
Yes.
You know, but they're comedic characters, so it fits.
They are, yeah.
Okay. So this is the part of the interview, dear listener, dear viewer at home, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books, so do your part. If for the people that buy directly from you on your website, are they able to leave reviews there, or do they need to go over to like Goodreads and Amazon?
This will be exclusive, this book here, to Amazon on KDP. We are looking at doing a paperback or a hardcover at some point in the future, just on our site, but I don't know when that'll be. It will still be available though on Amazon in paperback form and hopefully hardcover. But for right now, I don't know when or if we will for sure put it on the site. I will have them at the conference though, if anybody comes to Reader Nation in Las Vegas. So you can definitely pick up a special edition hardcover of that.
This is definitely the kind of post, or the book cover is definitely the kind of thing you'd put as a poster on your wall. So you captured the 80s vibe. I would have totally had this on my wall.
I actually do. I have a metal poster sitting like right over there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Courtesy of my wife. She had that printed up for me. So that is
awesome. Cool. You married well then.
Yeah.
So
she's a keeper.
Absolutely. If people wanted to track you down on the wild interwebs, Chaney, where might they find you?
So you can find me at jnchaney.com, but I recommend you join the Facebook group called Renegade Readers, JN Chaney's Renegade Readers. And we have about 46,000 or so members. We get lively discussions, fan posts, sci-fi stuff, movies, cat memes, jokes. It's a really good community, really feel-good community.
Terry Maggart running amok. It's all fun.
Yeah. All the authors I work with are in there talking, and you can tag them and get direct responses. You can also email me if you want to talk to me directly one-on-one. You can email me at JN Chaney, all one word, at jnchaney.com. And as long as it doesn't go to my spam folder, I'll see it and then I'll respond as fast as possible.
Okay. I will say that your Renegade Readers, because I am in that group, is very well moderated. So the spam bots and the people that just want to troll and not in the fun way, they don't tend to last long. They will kick them out an airlock quick, fast, and in a hurry, which keeps it. It keeps it enjoyable for people that just don't want to be inundated with all the politics and.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, one of my early goals, going back a decade, was I wanted to have a community, right? Like I wanted a reader community of fans that could talk directly to me and amongst themselves. And I wanted it to get big enough so that they could sort of like just talk together about the books. And at a certain point, like I wouldn't even have to be involved if I didn't want to, be in the discussion.
But I will say, I've seen posts in there where people have been critical, and you are the most gracious host when stuff like that happens. And I really appreciate that's how you interact with your fans, with the readers. And that's really meaningful to me because so many writers have been just complete jerks.
I think criticism is a very important aspect of being a creative. If you're putting something out into the world and you're asking people to give you money for it, you're asking people to give their time to it. And really, that's the most valuable resource in the world is your time. So if with so much entertainment out there, you're asking even just one person like to give up hours of their day to consume your entertainment or your media. They could be watching Netflix, Amazon Prime. They could be reading a comic. They could be reading a bestseller, a New York Times bestseller, but they're not. They're reading your book. And no matter what level of independent author or traditionally published author you are, whoever you are, you should be thankful that person is taking the time to sit down and give you those hours. And if someone puts that time into the book and they walk away wondering about something, or they find an error, or they are critical in any way about it, as long as they're not rude and mean spirited about it,
right?
I want to hear. I want to hear what it is. I want to listen, because that's how I'll get better. And then I can go. If it's a small error, I can update the book, or I can explain it in the next book, or I can just learn from that mistake and be better in the future. And that's a philosophy that I've had since I wrote my first book. I think it comes out of posting on those web forums when I was a teenager and asking and begging for feedback from people. I think that when people read your book, getting that feedback is how you grow, right? Like every author should look at the career like a mountain that can never be climbed. It just goes on forever. And you can improve and you can get to the next plateau, and you can continuously put one foot in front of the other and get higher and higher on that mountain. And maybe you'll pass people where they gave up and they quit and they stopped, and you'll keep going. But there's always somebody else who got higher than you. And the reason is because they never stopped learning how to be better and improve. It's a lifelong commitment.
I thought you were about to break out the quote that every dead body on Everest was once a highly motivated individual. So I
think that's the more cynical way to look at it. But yeah, I mean, so I look at it like I always want to learn, and when the guys that I work with, if they're new to the industry, I don't hold that against them at all. I actually sometimes prefer it because they're so hungry and they want to learn. And the first thing I do is I say, go read this book on craft, go read this book on plot structure, and then let's outline a book together that uses these tools in our arsenal now to craft a book that's going to really resonate with people. Like, what's your character arc? Like, let's figure that out together. Where's the story going to, is it going to be satisfying? Is it going to be surprising? Is it going to be predictable? Let's work all that out so we have a good story. But they can't do that, as Stephen King would say, without a good toolbox.
Right.
So
I'm going to embarrass you. I'm going to embarrass you right now because I've been wanting to tell this story for a long time, and I'll be very brief. I'm going to tell you, JR, Galaxy's Most Wanted that you see behind me would not exist without JN Chaney. It would not exist because I was a young author and I reached out and asked for some advice. And JN, you mentored me at a time when I was really low and I was about ready to quit, and I didn't. And that's thanks to you. And I really appreciate you, dude.
Oh, thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. But I think if you achieve a certain level of success in any industry that you're in, and you see people who are starting out where you were, it's important to, pass that down and share what you've learned. I mean, I guess you can call it mentoring, but I think it's just sharing the information and helping, giving a leg up. I had that, I have a degree and I got a master's degree in writing. I learned a lot in that program, but I didn't learn nearly as much as when I got out of it and started talking to real authors, and they started giving me tons of advice. And one of them was like, "Oh, you should go read this plot structure book." And so that's what I did. And that's the book to this day that I still give people.
Nice. All right. So as we wrap this up, LaVoice, since you're filling in the co-host chair today, where can they find you if they want to check out that Galaxy's Most Wanted?
Easiest place to find me is michaellavoice.com. And if you want to see me talk about nerdy things, you can check out my YouTube channel, LaVoice in Your Head. And it's also the same name as my TikTok channel. And you could just look there and all the links are right there.
You have the perfect name for that. That's great.
Yeah.
Thanks. I don't want to tell you how many times I've been accused of making up my own last name.
Yeah.
Your mother just knew you were going to sell words one day, and she was just trying to set you up for success.
Oh, it's like Scott Moon, man. The guy has the perfect sci-fi author name.
Or Jesse James Fame, Jesse James, outlaw author. I mean, the ad copy kind of writes itself for some of these people.
Yeah.
My name was so bad I had to use my initials growing up, so I was not as lucky as some people, obviously. But you can find us on our Linktree, linktr.ee. Linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast, where we linked all the things: the BitChute, the Rumble, the YouTube, the TikTok, the Twitter. We've got our Spotify, our Discord, our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. You can email the show at blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people. Save the shenanigans from Adam Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, the Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast, and I promise I will keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee till their eyes turn brown and we float away on a river of happiness. I mean, coffee, same. If you want some of that coffee brand coffee, link is in the show notes. Discount code is podcast grunts. You get 10% off. We get a little bit of a kickback. It's a win-win. And with that, I would like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. Thank you for coming on, Chaney. This was a lot of fun. I always enjoy talking to you.
Thanks, man. Same here. I really had a good time.
Absolutely. And with that, sometimes we even